Where Our Spirits Go, Part 3, The Power of Resurrection in the Bible. The debate about death and resurrection is not something new, but has been around for a while. The actual word resurrection is only found in the New Testament and mentioned 41 times in the King James Bible. Also, there are 3 Greek words that are used for resurrection, the main one being anastasis, which means resurrection, rising again, or raised to life again. The other 2 are egarsis, which means resurgence or resurrection, and exanastasis, which means rising from death or resurrection. The resurrection truth and concept are not only a New Testament teaching, but also an Old Testament teaching as well. Resurrection is the dead being brought to life, and the very first reference we see this is found in 1 Kings 17:17-24. As we see in verses 21 to 23, Elijah cried unto the Lord to restore this lady's son's soul, and the Lord restored his soul unto the child. This child is the first witness of God's resurrecting power, as witnessed throughout the Bible. No one else and nothing else has the power to restore souls to a body, but God alone. As it says in John 11:25, Jesus is the resurrection and the life. They who believe in him, although they were dead, they will live again. Even though our bodies die, they will be resurrected again, as we will later talk about. Continuing on with examples, God also grants Elisha the power to raise the dead back to life, and we have a couple examples for him. One such example was about a lady and her husband giving Elisha a place to stay, and she talks about a child. Elisha asks what he can do for her because of her great hospitality, and she mentions that her and her husband are old but have no children. He then comforts her and tells her that the Lord will give them a child, 2 Kings 4:13-17. Kind of like Abram and Sarai, for they had a child in their old age as well. Then one day, when the child was older, he was helping his father in the fields and grew very ill and died, 2 Kings 4:18-20. So the mother took off in search of Elisha to see what he could do. And Elisha told his servant to lay his staff on the child's face to awake him, but the child did not awake. 2 Kings 4:31-32. Imagine the disappointment that the parents and the servant must have felt when doing what the prophet Elisha said to do and did not work. Then Elisha laid on the child, eye to eye, face to face, and hand to hand, and then stretched himself on the child, and the child's body started to get warm, but he had not awakened yet. Then Elisha walked back and forth in the house and then stretched himself out on the child again. This time, the child sneezed 7 times and then awoke and came to life again. 2 Kings 4:33-35. God had blessed Elisha so much in power that there was power in his bones. After Elisha was dead and buried in a tomb, they had thrown a dead man in where he was buried. And when the dead man touched Elisha's bones, the man came back to life. 2 Kings 13:21. That would have truly been a sight to see, a dead man brushing against bones and coming back to life. Yet another example of resurrection found in this life is found in Ezekiel 37:5-10. God told Ezekiel to prophesy to the bones to receive the breath of God, and they will live. As Ezekiel did as he was told and began to prophesy, there was a great noise, and behold, bones started to come together. As the bones were coming together, muscles and flesh started to cover them, but there was no life and no breath in them. Again, God told him to prophesy and to call breath from the 4 winds, and Ezekiel did as he was commanded. He prophesied and breath entered into them, and before him stood a great army. Imagine that, where once stood a giant pile of bones, now stood a great army of living people. As it speaks in Prophesy Against Israel, it is possible that this was in spirit, Ezekiel 37:1-2, and not physical. But regardless, God has the power to do the impossible, as he has resurrected the dead in times past and times to come. As Scripture says, with men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Matthew 19:26 KJV. Whenever we have doubts about God's power, remember how our Creator formed the universe out of nothing, how he created man and woman out of nothing, and how he has brought the dead back to life. Truly, our God is an awesome God, the only true living God. To him be all honor, glory, and praise.